All right, so today we're going to talk about how to estimate the different number of floor framing material that we'll need. It's a little different than estimating wall framing material, so we'll get to that in the next unit. But it's relatively simple, okay? So on the front sheet, and you'll see this on the assignment page, the front page is kind of like all the different formulas that you're going to use. So how to figure the sills, you're just going to measure the perimeter of the foundation. The girders or the beam, so that's the large piece of wood underneath that supports the joists. You're going to take the length of the beam and multiply it by the number of pieces used to create that beam. Okay, and then the number of floor joists, this is kind of like the most important one because the floor joist is the main component of the floor framing system. So to determine the number of floor joists, we're going to take the measurement, the length of the building, and convert it to inches. And then you're going to divide it by the spacing between the joists, okay? So it's either going to be 16 on center or 24 on center. So we'll take the building's length, convert it to inches, and then divide it by your joint spacing. And that's going to give you a number, and you're going to add 1 to that number to account for the beginning, okay? Then for the joist headers, or what we call the rim joists, we're just going to double the length of the building because there are going to be 2 along either side. The solid bridging or blocking, we're going to double the length of the building. So that's the pieces that goes in between the joists. And how to determine subflooring panels or the sheathing. Take the total area of the floor and divide it by the total area of one OSB sheet, which is 32 feet. And if you have a fraction, you're going to always want to round up. All right, so we can refer back to these as we go, but let's go ahead and get started on this example. So here's our building. It's 21 feet by 15 feet. We're going to use 3 2x12s for the beam, okay? So that's represented in this right here. You can see the 3 2x12s, and then we have 3 different pier blocks, okay? So that's going to be necessary information to figure out what we're going to be doing. So number 1, how many lineal feet of 2x6 sill material are needed? So we're looking for sills. So then if you go back to the front page and we look at sills, how to figure the sills, you measure the perimeter of the foundation. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all the lengths and the widths of this side, and that'll give us our lineal feet. So we have 15 plus 15 because of these 2 sides, and 21 plus 21. And whatever that number is going to be your lineal feet, not feet squared, lineal feet. So 15 plus 15 plus 21 plus 21 equals 72. So we have 72 lineal feet. Number 2, how many lineal feet of 2x12 are needed for the beam? So remember that we're using 3 2x12s for the beam. So now let's look on our sheet. How to figure the beams and girders. Take the length of the beam and multiply it by the number of pieces to create that beam. Okay, so the length of this beam is 21 feet. And we're going to multiply it by the number of 2x12s used for the beam. And that's going to give us our lineal feet. So 21 times 3 is 63. So we need 63 lineal feet of 2x12 for the beam. Number 3, how many 2x8 joists are needed if they're spaced 16 inches on center? So that's our joint spacing. That means every joint from the middle to the middle is 16 inches apart. So if we go to our joists, where are we at? Right here. Number of floor joists needed. Convert the length of the building's measurement to inches, then divide the length by the joint spacing and add 1. So the length of our building is 21. We need to convert that to inches. So let me draw that up here. 21 feet equals 21 times 12, and that's going to be inches because there's 12 inches in a foot, and we're looking at 21 feet. So 21 times 12, 252. So we're looking at 252 inches. Okay, so 252 inches. And we're going to divide by 16 inches because that's our spacing. So 252 divided by 16 is going to give you 15.75. And then we have to add 1 to this. So we have 16.75, but you can't have 0.75 of a joist, so we'll round to 17. You could have rounded back here, but I wanted to write it all out so you could see where everything came from, okay? So 252 is the length of the building in inches. We divided by 16 because each joist is going to be 16 inches apart on center. And so 252 divided by 16 gave us 15.75. We add 1 to that to account for the very beginning stud, or the very beginning floor joist, and that gave us 16.75, but we cannot have 0.75 of a joist, so we had to round it up to 17. Moving on to number 4, how many lineal feet of 2x8 rim joists? So we'll look here, how to figure joist headers rim joist. We're going to double the length of the building. Our length is 21, so 21 feet times 2 is 42 lineal feet. How many lineal feet of 2x8s are needed for the solid bridging or blocking? Remember, that's the pieces that go in between. Okay, so like if these are our floor joists, the blocking is going to be these pieces in between. All right, so how many lineal feet of 2x8 are needed for the bridging or the blocking? If you come down here, we're going to double the length of the building again. We just did that right here, so we're going to have 42 lineal feet. And lastly, how many 4x8 panels are needed for the subflooring? So what we're going to do for that, take the area of the entire building and then divide it by the area of one sheet, which is 4x8, so that's 32. So the area of this building would be 21 times 15. And then in our calculator, that's 315 square feet. So we have 315 feet squared. And then a 4x8 panel is 32 feet squared, so we're going to divide those two. All right, so 315 divided by 32. That's going to be 9.84 sheets. But as you know, we can't order 8.84 of a sheet, so we have to get 10 panels or 10 sheets.